How we doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and it is late night at the time this video is dropping, around 10 p.m. Eastern, if not later, that being March 14th, 2026, and we have plenty of news and rumblings to get into in Mets land, headlined by the fact that the Amazons are bringing back, yes, you guessed it, Dicky Lovelady. We're going to get into Lovelady, his game, what you guys need to know about the veteran southpaw, his potential impact in this Mets bullpen as we enter 2026 season, and ultimately what this means for Justin Hagenman as the corresponding move, as it's not so great news on his front, but is absolutely fantastic news on the front of Francisco Lindor, as we have a very important update to get into regarding him and his status. We're also going to break down Carson Benge, Ryan Lambert, some of the top prospects that have been standing out big time so far this spring. Freddy Peralta looking fantastic on the mound today in the Mets' latest spring training matchup against the Astros, and a bunch of other news and notes that we're going to break down this one for each and every one of you. So hit that like and subscribe button on your way in. Let me know your thoughts, reactions, and most certainly analysis in the comments down below regarding everything that we're going to deep dive in this one. And shout out to our amazing sponsor that makes every single show here happen that you guys and gals know plenty, that being at SeatGeek, that has you covered for all of your ticketing needs. Because as you guys can see, SeatGeek, it's so easy to navigate their app. They have a grading scale system, meaning that if you purchase a ticket in the red coloration of 1 through 4 on the range, it ain't a good bang for your buck. You should probably get a ticket elsewhere there in the SeatGeek app. Say one that's in the green range, 7 through 10, it's a great bang for your buck, everybody. So they're fair, they're honest, and they're telling you exactly how it is. That's what I love so much about SeatGeek. They're very easy to navigate, and I've been utilizing them well before they were a channel-wide sponsor on the platform for the past calendar year, and will be here for the next calendar year. Thanks to you amazing Mets fans for using our promo code WARDY10. Again, that is WARDY10 for 10% off your next ticket purchase. So whether you want it for spring training games, World Baseball Classic games, like this amazing highlight of Juan Soto with the swim dive this past night, or whatever the case may be in the sports and as well as entertainment space in general, SeatGeek has you covered. Use the promo code WARDY10 for 10% off your next ticket purchase. Link down below. Thank you kindly for that, as well as helping us get to 38,000 subscribers. We're oh so close. Not even 100 subs away, everybody, and we're giving away a brand new Mets Freddy Peralta or Bo Bichette jersey to one lucky subscriber once we get to that milestone. So thank you guys kindly for hitting those buttons. Now let's dive right into this, everybody, and we'll come back to these highlights you see beside me, some of the key takeaways over the past 24 hours of Mets land from at least a production standpoint. But let's get into what you guys and gals need to know on the front of what is going on with the Amazons right now, specifically regarding the moves that they just made that we saw over the past literally couple hours of the time this video dropping. And that is, as you guys and gals can see here, Richard Lovelady has been claimed off waivers by the Washington Nationals. And as a corresponding move, Justin Hagenman, who's down with a very unfortunate rib fracture, as bizarre as it is to say, he is the corresponding move as he is shifted to the 60-day IL. So let's begin here with Lovelady, and then we'll talk more on Hagenman, okay? Because in case you guys don't know Mr. Lovelady, let me remind you who Dicky Lovelady is. And let's actually start by reminding you by Dicky Lovelady striking out Pete Alonso, okay? So Lovelady, for those that don't remember, veteran southpaw, was with the Mets this past season for, again, a very small sample size, a cup of coffee. It was around, I believe, 10 innings or 10 outings or so. He wasn't overly sharp. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you guys that Lovelady was the best thing since sliced bread. Far from it, okay? He gave up earned runs a decent amount of the time when he was out there. I believe he gave up earned runs in at least 7 of his 10 outings or so. So again, not overly inspiring. So I'm not trying to sell you guys, oh my God, Dicky Lovelady's the next best thing for this Mets bullpen as a dominant southpaw reliever to pair with someone like Brooks Raley. Speaking of dominant southpaw relievers, we will talk about A.J. Minter in this one as we have some key news to break down on his front. It's all positive, so that's a good thing. And the Mets are going to need A.J. Minter this year, no doubt about it. And Dicky Lovelady is most certainly someone that the Mets should not be relying on this year. And I say that in the sense of, if Lovelady eats innings for the Mets this year, okay. You know, they're going to, of course, have pitchers that they throw out there for 10 to 20 to 30-plus innings to just eat innings and hopefully have levels of success. Now, Lovelady did have levels of success with the Mets over the past calendar year, and that's why the Mets flip-flop, snip-snap, just continued to drop him and pick him back up. You think I'm lying? Let me go ahead and show you, everybody, this graphic real quick, because I really think you're going to get a kick out of it. Just give me 1 second. Let me minimize this to make sure I pull up the right thing here for each and every one of you. because it cracks me up every single time I look at. Just take a look at this, everybody. So these are all the updates from Underdog MLB, but this would be the same as if you're just going on MLB's website and looking at transactions. Dicky Lovelady was first acquired by the New York Mets on June 29th of last year, and then they DFA'd him in July, and then they, of course, signed him to a one-year deal right to begin the offseason last year on October 23rd, and then they DFA'd him again January 22nd, and now they just brought him back, and they picked him up off waivers from the Washington Nationals. So snip, snap, snip, snap, cue Michael Scott if you know what I'm referring to. It's a hilarious reference if you know, you know. So all I have to say about this is I'm not surprised by this, okay? This is very much a David Stearns type move, and I'm not complaining because at the end of the day, Lovelady's not someone that is going to have a great impact in this Mets bullpen this year, but he may get some looks, especially because he got looks last year. Knowing that the Mets are so weak with their lefty depth in their bullpen right now, all the more reason as to why you should not be surprised when you see a guy like him inevitably get some reps at the major league level. I don't think it's a matter of if it'll happen, but ultimately when it'll happen if he does not get DFA'd prior to opening day. Because when you think about the Mets' lefty depth of their bullpen currently, A.J. Minter's still working himself back, but probably will not return until late April, early May. I would say May's very realistic for someone like Minter, and I'm looking forward to seeing him back and actually seeing what he can do in a Mets uniform, because we only got a cup of coffee last year before he went on the shelf, and all I remember him is just killing us as an Atlanta Brave. So outside of A.J. Minter, you had guys like Anderson Severino, and you also had Brian Hudson competing for a bullpen spot this spring. Severino, the flamethrower who looked fantastic in the Mexican League this past year, was one of the first cuts by the New York Mets in this year's spring training, being sent back to minor league camp. Now, Brian Hudson is interesting because he's had success and he's had a lack of success. He's been up, down a little bit in his last couple outings. And 2 outings ago for him, he was 3 miles per hour higher on his fastball than his yearly average last season, which is somewhat encouraging. But then we see his last outing, it was only 2 miles per hour higher, not even. So I don't know what the velocity is going to look like with someone like Brian Hudson this year. He had a lot of success for for the Brewers in 2024. Didn't do squat last year as he was part of the Chicago White Sox organization, so the Mets bought low on him this offseason. And Hudson is a towering 6'8" frame, but doesn't throw hard, which is kind of frustrating. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be completely honest, just from a fan point of view, talking for a second. It pisses me off seeing a guy towering almost 7 foot, but can't consistently hit 95 plus on the gun. I understand mechanics are the massive factor behind it, but you have all the making and ability to be a flamethrower, and yet you're more of a soft tosser. It frustrates me from a fan point of view, and I'll stand by that. Having said that, though, that's besides the point. I bring up these fellow lefties because this is essentially the immediate competition that Lovelady has to crack this Mets bullpen as a lefty option outside of Raley. And you could rightfully argue that Lovelady directly is in a better position to potentially impact the Mets to start the season as a veteran lefty than even Brian Hudson. Because Brian Hudson, we knew, was very Jekyll and Hyde last year. And while I like his upside more than Lovelady, I wouldn't be surprised if Justin Willard getting his hands on Lovelady this time, the Mets' new pitching coach, gets him right a little bit, where he does have slivers of success in limited sample sizes. To be determined, obviously, but I would love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Richard, a.k.a. Dicky Lovelady, returning to the mound for the New York Mets and Flushing, Queens. Will he make it an opening day? We'll just have to wait and see. But for now, he's back in this Mets bullpen, and he's going to look to do something positive, at least during spring training. I remember I was literally in attendance a couple weeks ago seeing Lovelady play the New York Mets as a member of the Washington Nationals. It's kind of funny. Fast forward a couple weeks later, and here he is back in the Mets organization. So now going on from Lovelady, let's talk about the corresponding move, and let's talk about why this happened. And this happened because, unfortunately, Justin Hagenman is cooked. Listen up to what Carson Benge, Mets skipper, had to say.
When velocity was down again, you get concerned that we're getting deeper into camp here and it's not ticking up.
I know it's going to be a topic here.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned as long as he keeps telling us that he's healthy. Okay. And that's what he keeps telling us. I feel great. Look, it might take a while for the velo to come back, and that's why he's tinkering with the cutter, the change.
I'm a schmuck and I'm playing the wrong clip of Mendy. That's all on me. I apologize. This is Mendy talking about not being concerned with Shamanai's velocity. I'm going to jump to the clip I want to show you, but I will just touch on this briefly because I think it's relevant now that I'm playing it. I'm concerned with Manaea's velocity, and you should be too. I'm not saying that you should think, oh my God, this guy's falling, he's cooked. But what I am saying is that regardless of it being this point in spring training, Sean Manaea not even touching 90 miles per hour on the gun with his fastball is a major problem, okay? Because in order for Sean Manaea to have success this season, he is going to need to be able to find that velocity again. It's not just about the arm slot angle looking deceptive like Chris Sale from the Mets 2024 season in the second half, where Sean really broke out on the scene for the Mets and was going deep into games. But let's not forget what Sean Manaea was so brilliantly doing in the second half of that year. It wasn't just utilizing the sweeper, nasty lefty, but was teeing up a fastball that was sitting 95, 96 plus on the gun and looking very steady and lively for you in stretches. And Manaea doesn't have that fastball velocity to begin the season. I assure you, he sadly is going to fall in the same category as Kodai Senga after his injury last year, and then Sean Manaea with his injuries, of guys that are incompetent. Because if you do not have fastball velocity, you need to have pinpoint precision in your actual, where you're going to be dotting on the corners. If you can't do that, you're going to get absolutely smoked, okay? Because not having velocity also really hurts trying to set up your off-speed and breaking pitches. That's why Senga is a massive story this spring, because he's doing something he hasn't done in 2 calendar years. He's touching 99 on the gun this spring, okay? He just won 3 basically perfect innings yesterday, and the Mets unfortunately lost to Miami 1-0, but he goes out and goes 3 innings and strikes out 5, touches 99 on the gun, and throws 7 different pitches in his arsenal. I can't believe I'm saying this, but for the first time in a long time, I'm actually excited to see Kodai Senga pitch. Sean Manaea, not so much. So that's what I have to say about Sean. But now let's get into talking about Justin Hagenman. Listen up.
Understanding on the timeline for that.
It's a pretty significant injury. He's going to be down for a while. So I don't know exactly the timetable here, but he's going to miss some time here.
So apologies if the audio levels were a little low there. That clip wasn't as loud as I was hoping it'd be, a courtesy of SNY, so that's what we're just rocking with at the moment. But what I'll say in regards to this is that Justin Hagenman was not someone I was hoping to see much at the major league level this year, because the Mets have enough pitching depth that they shouldn't have to rely on a Justin Hagenman to have to make his first career start in May in Minneapolis like he did last year, in which it was a valiant effort, but sadly Harrison Bader had other plans later on that ball game, helped the Twins not only win that matchup, but ultimately win the series against the Mets, because he just killed the Mets all year long last year, sadly. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is just, in general, his role on the New York Mets currently, that being in Hagenman, is not the same role as it was going back to a year ago. It's not the same circumstance. And the easiest way for me to explain that has more to do with the fact that when you have Tobias Myers, who's a true Swiss Army knife of a swing man for you, who's looked brilliant this spring. 8 innings, he's only allowed, I believe, a couple runs at this point. He just pitched another 3 scoreless over the past day or so. He's awesome. Loving Tobias Myers. You add in Freddy Peralta for the immediate impact to your rotation. You have Noel McLean from the start, where McLean wasn't on this Mets roster in the first half when Hagenman made his debut last year. That was eating innings for the Mets. The Mets shouldn't have to defer or rely on a Justin Hagenman for literally anything this season. If they do, it's a problem, and it will absolutely more than likely be to their detriment. This is not me saying that Justin Hagenman is an absolutely terrible pitcher, but he's not someone that should be in the immediate mix of guys the Mets consider at the major league level. So while he maybe has made some solid adjustments this spring, that all is going to be pushed on the back burner. It's going to be put away to the side for a while, because he has a pretty significant injury with that rib fracture, as Carlos Mendoza, Mets skipper, stated himself. So understanding that, knowing that Hagenman's not going to be around anytime soon, it's all the more reasoning to see, okay, what can Brandon Waddell do? A guy that was in a Hagenman-type role last year as a reliever starter that can eat multiple innings. What can you get more in a Tobias Myers? What can you get in a Carl Edwards Jr., who literally pitched 4 really good innings for you the past day? Really, really good innings. He didn't allow a single hit, so he did his part. No doubt about it. So I believe he didn't allow a hit, but he didn't allow any runs through 4. I know that much. And he's been stretched as a starter over the past year in the minor leagues, where his fastball velocity's been up, sitting 94 to 96 plus. And he's also the same guy that gave up the home run to Francisco Alvarez for Alvy's first home run of his career, funny enough. But enough of those little side tangents. You guys can let me know your thoughts about Mr. Justin Hagenman in the comments down below, and what the Mets will now be doing moving forward with Dicky Lovelady on the roster as that corresponding move. Now, to go on from there, there are a bunch of other topics I would like to deep dive. Another one is going to be Carson Benge, because the New York Mets unfortunately did not win their latest spring training game, as they faltered 8-2 to the Astros today. And while there were not many standouts on the offensive end to take away and say, oh, this is is something to be happy about today. Lo and behold, who was productive yet again? Yes, you guessed it. It's Carson Benge. Benge went 1 for 3 today that we saw, and he's now batting .367 this spring with an .839 OPS. And the reason why that is so important, everybody, is because what has Carson Benge done this spring that literally no other player on the Mets roster has done thus far? And that's record at least 11 hits. Yes, you heard that correctly. So Carson Benge is the first Mets player this spring to record 11 hits. Obviously, this goes in hand with playing time. Benge has had as much playing time as anyone, but he's running with it. That's what's exciting about this. This isn't a kid that looks outmatched constantly out there. I've seen some people talk about, he goes for opposite field constantly. It isn't as much hard contact. I hear you, but it's also very good selective hitting. For the bloops that he has, he's going to have his blast, and he's going to go gap to gap the same way that A.J. Ewing will. And we've been raving about A.J. Ewing. I will continue to rave about A.J. Ewing. So Carson Benge is doing his thing. He's looking awesome. He's making everybody happy, and rightfully so. And you know who's not making anyone happy in spring training? And you should not be surprised to hear this, just because, unfortunately, we kind of had an anticipation of this going into spring, him going to play for Team Nicaragua, when I understand wanting to get that experience in, and that's great for him. He did nothing, however, when he played for them, and now he's doing nothing for the Mets. The Mets' worst hitter this spring undoubtedly has been Mark Vientos at this point, who's not even batting 100. Carlos Mendoza isn't worried. He stated, he just hasn't gotten the results yet, and I hear that. But what's the leash, and what is the role going to be with Mark Vientos this year? Because if things continue to trend the way that they are, he's going to find himself in true DFA category before being fully committed on this roster. That's just a fact. The Mets have too many talented players in this organization to think that they're just going to give a long leash to a kid with no minor league options left, and had a very up-down 2025 season. I'm not saying it's all Vientos' fault, because I know it's not. And that's what makes it a bit frustrating to break down from a fan point of view. And as someone who knows, who has been, grateful to interact with Vientos' family from last year, it's really cool to meet them because they've been followers of the platform. I'm not sure how they feel about me right now, transparently, because I didn't talk much positive about Mark this past year. And again, part of it was his problem, absolutely not producing. But another part of it was the Mets completely disregarding how to properly develop this kid. I mean, you can't expect a guy like Vientos to perform well when he's given limited opportunity and, getting a start at third base and then not starting for a couple of games and then getting multiple days at DH. Like, there's no consistency. You can't expect his defensive game to get better that way, nor can you expect his maybe mentality or attitude to get better. Brett Beatty can handle this in stride, and he's really been a team player in ways that Vientos is trying his best to be, but we have seen in the past, going back to last year's trade deadline, his disgruntlement. He has shown this to a degree to the public, to us to see. And knowing he lacks the defensive value you're looking for, if he doesn't have the bat-to-ball skills, he doesn't have anything. I'm not saying that he doesn't have skills. I know he does. I'm sure if Vientos goes on another team anytime soon, he'll probably thrive with them. I don't think 2024 was a fluke. I think that there's more untapped potential there. But did he have some lady luck on his side that year? He absolutely did. And that's why 2025 was a big test for him, to see what the adjustment would be in BABIP, especially because he was a lucky hitter. And what do we see? Came down to reality in 2025. So what'll be the story in 2026? We'll just have to wait and see. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below regarding Mark Vientos in particular. Do you think that the time is coming to an end with Vientos and his tenure with the New York Mets? Do you think that he should be traded the way that I have stated all offseason long? Vientos and Mauricio should be dealt outside of Acuna. It just makes so much sense. Like, why wouldn't you do that while they still have a level of value? Because here's the thing now. If the Mets don't trade Mark Vientos, have him start the year in the roster, he plays like shit and gets barely any playing time the first month, you really think they're going to keep him on the roster much longer than that? No. They'll likely DFA him then, or literally trade him for, future considerations. They're not going to get much in return. But here's the thing. How things currently are, if you DFA him, you lose him for nothing. Because he will get picked up by someone else, and he will get an opportunity. Absolutely he will. 1,000%. And I think a change of scenery will bode Vientos well, because I do not see him being a New York Met long term. I'll be genuinely shocked if Mark Vientos is on this team by the time we're talking at the end of the season. But if he is, that's because he earned his keep, he played his way here, and he deserved to be here. And all the power to him. And I'm so happy to be raving about him then in that scenario. I just don't see a reality where that is the case right now. Do you? If you feel that way, again, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to see the discourse between how you guys feel, if you're for or against Mark Vientos. Now, talking about position players, let's get into our next key information of news in today's conversation, and that is going to regard Francisco Lindor, because Mr. Francisco Lindor has something for us to be happy about. And this is it, everybody. Let's chime in. Let's just take a look at all the following right here. Let's listen up to all of it. Talk about Mr. Lindor and Minter. Let's get into it. Let's break that down, everybody. I had my mic muted, so I may have to cut out a portion prior. I was blabbing, and I realized my mic wasn't on, but that's okay. We're going to adjust it now in real time. Here's what we got to say in regards to Francisco Lindor and AJ Minter, okay? Positive news on both fronts, okay? You got AJ obviously looking good against Lindor, and that's obviously a plus so far this spring. He looks a smidge ahead of schedule, which is encouraging. So whether he returns in April, late April, or early May is to be determined. But great to see AJ Minter gain these kind of BPs in with Francisco Lindor and looking good in doing so. From the people I spoke to around Mets camp over the past 48 hours, they were encouraged with what they saw with AJ, and the velocity didn't look bad either. So that's good. With Lindor, kind of a mixed bag. And what you got, obviously, it's like his first hacks, essentially, but not bad. And he also had that warning track power that we saw. And we also did get a chance to see Lindor go ahead. And actually, he was joking with Minter because Minter asked him, was it a home run or a ground rule double on one of his hits? And he said it was a ground rule double. I don't got it like that, and joked about it being a pop-up, meaning he doesn't have power. And that's something that's naturally he's going to have to build up again, because the main issue with people who have these hamate bone injuries and then have surgery is that they don't have that same level of power in their swing for their ramp up. So I'm not expecting too much from Lindor the first month of the season. I know we don't have the time, but I'm especially not, given the circumstance of how this spring went for him, where he barely played. But knowing that we're a week and a half away from opening day, cannot wait to see you guys there. It's going to be so much fun. And Lindor should be ready is a fantastic sign, and just great news as a Mets fan. You need Lindor in there every day. I mean, having Frankie, and listen, I understand he might get off to a cold start, but Lindor at home last year was tremendous. Like, batted 300, 1,000 OPS. He was everything and then some you could possibly want. On the road, he was god-awful. He was horrendous. Outside of Brett Beatty, he was the other worst Mets batter on the road last year. That's a statistical fact. Look up the splits if you don't believe me. And that's something that he needs to seriously adjust this year, because if he's that Jekyll and Hyde with his home and away approach, don't expect Francisco Lindor to be anything better than what he was last year. Last year was solid, but not the Lindor that I think you want in a full 162 when looking at balance and being home away and handling any circumstance thrown your way. Unfortunately for Lindor, very Jekyll and Hyde in that regard last year. Now, going on from Lindor, because we just talked plenty on him, let's get into another player that I'm excited to break down, and that is going to be not Clay Holmes, because we broke him down yesterday. Clay did a very, very good job that we saw, not allowing any walk, which is just so sick. Let's break down not Clay, but Ryan Lambert. Shout out to Pitch Profiler for the graphic here. But Ryan Lambert was fantastic yet again. And the reason why we have to highlight Lambert is simply because of the fact that Ryan Lambert may very well be a guy that's going to make this Mets bullpen from the start of the season. And he very well could win the Mets closer job within the next calendar year if Devin Williams has any hiccups. Like, this kid is that good. And while there are rightful concerns and reservations with his walk rate from Double-A this past year, where he dominated as the save artist there for the Rumble Ponies to win their championship last year, what's also true is that walk rates are always going to fluctuate with a guy like Ryan Lambert and with a guy like Dylan Ross. Like, that is always going to happen with these kind of guys, okay? Because they throw gas, and it'll continue at the major league level. But you need to understand that that's part of what you're signing up for with someone like Ryan Lambert. He sits consistently 98 to 100 on the gun. He struck out 3 and allowed just, one walk that we saw in his outing yesterday against the Nationals. Like, he's unbelievably nails. And he still leads all Major League Baseball in Stuff Plus so far this spring. He was 7% above league average on his four-seam fastball. He was 12% above league average on his slider per pitch profiler here on X. So you love what you see from Ryan Lambert. And all I have to say really is give me more. I want to see more of Ryan Lambert. We broke him down in my top 10 Mets prospects that'll make their major league debut this year video. He was one of the 10. Make sure to check out that entire video. A lot of you guys haven't yet, and I understand because it's not more my typical normal content. Definitely check it out, though, if you guys are into prospects. Complete deep dive on every single one, live from the New York Post studios in Manhattan. Really fun discussion on the platform. You'll know what the video is because it's a completely different thumbnail than any of my other videos. It's a completely different style, and it's pinned on my channel, too, so you can't miss it. But going on from Ryan Lambert, everybody, which, again, you got to be encouraged by. That's exactly what you want from someone like him, especially how he's continued to dominate all spring. Like, Lambert has been fantastic every outing he's had thus far. That all the credit and all the power to him because of that. But outside of Ryan Lambert doing his thing, if there's anything else I want to really touch on with each and every one of you right now, I think the next thing that I would want to touch on is this. I think you guys will appreciate this, especially my Italian Americans.
A non andare con swingo alto. Questo è un contatto, vamo Davito, è finita!
È il terzo out, l'Italia fa la storia!
On the Italian call, love to see it, love to hear it. Team Italy takes down Team Puerto Rico 8-6. I'm very conflicted by this. I love my Puerto Rican friends. I love Puerto Rican culture in general. My son is Italian and Puerto Rican, so he could not lose today. Literally, there was no chance he was going to be losing. Either way, he was a winner. I'm not Puerto Rican. I'm mainly Italian more than anything else. But the Italian American to me is just so happy to see the run the Italians have been having. I understand it's not really guys all straight from Italy. I get that. I hear you. But at least you have a lot of guys on Team Italy that actually have Italian names. Like, seriously, it's nice to see, like, a good amount of the roster have that. And what's also nice is that specific clip I showed you. Who caught the final out for Team Italy to beat Puerto Rico to get to the semifinals for the first time in their history for the WBC? Nick Morabito, Mets outfield prospect, who's looked really good this spring before arriving for Team Italy. So shout out to Morabito. He continues his WBC run. So amped up to see what he can do, if anything, with the bat-to-ball skills. I'm really excited to see what Team DR versus Team USA is going to do. Sunday night, it's going to be insane. Soto against Team USA is going to be bananas. These games are going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be locked into them. I hope you are as well. But I definitely want to share that with each and every one of you because it's really, really cool to see Italy have the run that they have. I feel for Team Puerto Rico. I know that they got completely screwed by the insurance issues this year, separate from Lindor because he was going to need that surgery regardless, so he wasn't going to play with them either way. But for many of the other players that weren't able to rep their, again, that's everything to them in Puerto Rico. The same way that you're seeing the Dominicans just go effing banana. I am loving everything about the Dominicans and how they're going about the WBC. And I know that there's a huge divide between baseball fans and appreciating that kind of culture and a very extrovert environment and fans that absolutely despise it and hate everything about the loud rowdiness that comes with Dominican baseball culture. And to them, I say, you're kind of sounding like an old grandpa, from The Simpsons on the newspaper yelling at the cloud. That's how I feel just because I'm a younger baseball fan. And I love that kind of extrovert environment. I've been to the WBC. I was there seeing Team Puerto Rico, captained by Lindor, play Venezuela. The loudest, most chaotic baseball game I've ever been a part of. I've been to Mets playoff games. I've been to big games, and nothing even touched the WBC. It wasn't even close, especially because I was in the Dome in Miami in Lone Depot. Nothing could touch how loud it was from start to finish. Nothing, okay? And I know my guy Giraffe Neck Mark is at these games throughout the WBC stretch right now. I know he's probably having an effing blast at the moment. So to everyone that's attending the WBC games in Miami, Houston, wherever it is, I hope you guys are all having a lot of fun. But that's all I got for you for now. So we talked about Lovelady, Lindor, Hagenman, Benge, Lambert, and much more in this one. You guys let me know all your key takeaways, thoughts, and reactions in this one. I really do appreciate it. And be on the lookout, everybody, as we're going to have a lot more Mets content dropping for each and every one of you over the next number of days. The final thing that I do want to just say real quick before I get out of here, as I did not get a chance to yet, was just to quickly inform you as to how Freddy Peralta and the Mets pitching staff did today and their 8-2 loss to the Houston Astros. Astros. There really weren't any highlights offensively for the Mets outside of like Benge getting a hit, and we also saw AJ Ewing get a hit because of course he did. I love AJ Ewing so much. He's so effing good right now. AJ Ewing is now batting this spring, just to double check. Right now, he's batting 381 with over 1,000 OPS. He's a dog. But Freddy Peralta did his thing today, baby. He goes 4 innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 earned run, 1 hit, 1 walk, a 2.70 ERA this spring. Luis Garcia, who will be in the Mets bullpen as a veteran flamethrower, looked very good. The other Garcia, who will not be in the Mets bullpen, and Saul Garcia, got cooked. Jordan Gieber, who looked solid last time he was out there, didn't look too good this time around. On Colin Cosper, and that's about that. All guys are in the minor leagues. But Freddy Peralta, everybody, let's break down him briefly, how he fared. His four-seam fastball sat 93 today, so he's still a little down on it, but he has some time to ramp up still. Curveball was sitting right around 78, so the norm. Changeup right around 86, a little down, and the slider right around 82. But Freddy Peralta said he felt good in his post-game interview today and is excited to get out there for the New York Mets and get this regular season started. So shout out to Freddy for being productive today, regardless of the Mets' lack of offense in their spring training matchup. And shout out to each and every one of you again for taking the time this evening or sometime over the next 24 hours for watching this video. Thank you guys again, and as always, no matter what, let's go Mets. Peace out, everybody.